Alright, hey, what's up guys? Josh Thomas here from TheBitBlock with our detailed video review for Kirby's Return to Dreamland on the Wii. I love this game. It is so much fun. It's adorable fun, which is even better than normal fun, obviously. That's mathematically true. Kirby's Return to Dreamland is out right now in North America. It came out on October 24th. Retails for $49.99, and you can play it with up to 4 people. So this is kind of like Kirby's take on a new Super Mario Bros. Wii style multiplayer. Things get really hectic and fun in the multiplayer. It's developed by HAL Labs, who is, obviously usually the studio behind Kirby games, with a few exceptions. There's so much to talk about here. We're going to casually sit down and just gush over all things Kirby. Let's not waste any more time. Let's jump right into TheBitBlock's detailed video review. Now, as far as the gameplay is concerned here, this is very much a classic traditional style Kirby game, which is something a lot of hardcore Kirby fans have been asking for a very long time. Nintendo tried a lot of new things recently with Kirby, and I was actually very happy with them. Epic Yarn is amazing, Kirby Mass Attack is amazing, but it's nice to see Kirby return to his roots and have a game that really expresses why many people fell in love with Kirby to begin with. It's a 2D platformer, of course, and you have the ability to inhale all of your foes and enemies and then copy their ability and use it against them, which is tons of fun. The copy abilities, I think, are really the star of the show here. They are why it's so much fun to play Kirby's Return to Dreamland. There's 20 of them in all. Some of them are returning from past games, and some of them are brand new. Even the ones that return from past games will sometimes have new tricks up their sleeve, new things you can do with them. And because I feel they're so important, it's probably a good idea to sit down here for a minute or two and just go over a few of them to give you examples of what you can do here. Obviously, you have the ability to use a sword. Kirby can use it to slash through a bunch of bricks and blocks and obviously smash enemies in the face with it. There's also the fire ability, where you can burn things down. Kirby can even be set ablaze, which is tons of fun and looks kind of frightening. The ice ability allows you to freeze enemies, and they'll turn into little ice cubes, which you can then kick at other enemies or use that to break down barriers in front of you. I really like the ice ability. You can ice skate with it as well when you dash. The beam attack, where Kirby dresses up as a jester, is returning as well. It allows you to kind of more or less mess with electricity. The stone returns, where Kirby will slam down to the ground as a little heavy object, and you can smash enemies with that. You can also use that to go down ramps, which is adorable. What I love about the stone ability is that you never really know what heavy object Kirby is going to turn into, so it's kind of fun to see what it randomizes to. Lots of returning power-ups, but some of the new ones, which are really interesting, would be, oh god, this one is amazing. It's the whip, where Kirby will dress up as a cowboy. He has a little cowboy hat on, and he's holding a whip. Using the whip, you can, swing it forward to grab enemies, pull them towards you, and then slam them on the ground. The whip is used to grab objects that you would normally not be able to get. And come on, he's dressed as a freaking cowboy. That's too cute. Another new ability is the leaf power-up, where Kirby gains the power of foliage. You can spin around and create this windstorm with leaves to take out your enemies. You can also stab upward and leaves will come out of the ground. That one's really fun to mess with. And then just one more new power-up, to give you another example, is the water ability, where Kirby can literally surf using the water. You can also squirt the water at enemies. You can create a huge tidal wave to take out a big group of enemies, and one of the really cute things you can do with this is just spray the ground, and Kirby will hover using the little squirt gun power. So it's really fun. Messing with all the abilities is part of the reason that I think, and maybe the biggest reason as to why Kirby's Return to Dreamland ends up being so much fun. They're quite detailed. There's a lot of different moves you can do with them, and so messing around with all of them and figuring out what you can do is something that I think is going to add a lot of fun to the game. There's not just normal copy abilities, they've also added in, brand new to the series, the super abilities, which are really taking epicness to a new level. Essentially, they are like the normal abilities, but they're much more impressive from a cinematic standpoint. The fire, for example, allows you to use a giant flaming dragon to come crashing through the stage and burn down maybe big trees or a big group of enemies. You can also use the mighty sword power-up, which just slashes through a ton of enemies and a ton of bricks. So they're kind of like the copy abilities, but enhanced to a dramatic extreme. And they do pause the game a little bit, which can get annoying in multiplayer. If you're playing with somebody who constantly likes to use them, eventually it'll be like, okay, stop, let us progress. But they're very, very fun to mess with, and they're a nice addition to the copy abilities. Of course, the biggest new addition to Return to Dreamland has to be the multiplayer. The ability to play a Kirby game with up to 4 people at once is insane, and it adds so much fun and actually replay value to the gameplay. You can play as Kirby, of course, Waddle Dee, King Dedede, or Meta Knight. All of them have their own style of playing. King Dedede has the power of a hammer, and so all of his moves would involve the hammer. Meta Knight has a sword. Waddle Dee has the ability to use a spear. You can also use that spear to like throw spears, or you can use it as a little helicopter when you charge it up, and so Waddle Dee can fly all over the place with his spear. Meta Knight has the sword, and you can slash through things. And then, of course, Kirby is the only character who has the ability to suck up and inhale all the different enemies on the courses. The rest of the characters can pretty much just smash through them. So in a way, I kind of feel like Return to Dreamland is very much still built around Kirby. So when it comes to multiplayer here at TheBitBlock, usually everybody likes to just play as a Kirby character. You can do that. All 4 of the people can be Kirby. You would just be different colors. Or maybe 2 people want to be Kirby, and then the other 2 want to be, you know, Meta Knight or Waddle Dee. You can kind of mix it up. It's kind of interesting, though, because the gameplay in multiplayer does actually involve you working as a team. You don't have to, but there are many different ways to interact with each other. For example, when you get hit in the game, it would take off a chunk of your health bar, and then when you see food in the course, you would run up to the food, eat it, and it would restore your health. You can, in multiplayer, actually share the health. So let's say everybody is low on health, all 4 of us, and I got some grapes. That means the other players could run up to me, and when we touch each other, we would hug or kiss. I don't know what it is technically. It looks like they're kissing or hugging, and you would then give them some health as well. In the instruction manual, Nintendo calls it face-to-face, but it looks like the characters are hugging, and basically you get to share some health with them. And so when you're playing with a lot of people, that's something that's really crazy. When we play here at the BitBlock, if somebody needs health, it's basically begging somebody else to come help them. It's not like everybody works together, and so you can imagine that gets pretty fun and crazy. You can also stack on top of each other, or totem, as we call it here. You can totem pull onto each other, which sounds kind of dirty, but basically, you know, all 4 people can be stacked on top of each other, and the bottom player would be rocking around through the level. You can even perform this big epic move when you're all stacked on top of each other, or 2 people, or whatever. If you all press and hold the A button, you would then, at the same time, release it, and you would send out some big, massive attack towards maybe a boss battle or something. That becomes pretty helpful. Another thing you can do when working as a team is if somebody is floating in the air, maybe Kirby, you can grab onto Kirby's feet, and that player would just kind of fly around with you. That's helpful if you're playing with somebody who's very skilled and somebody who's not too skilled. You can take the intermediate player through difficult areas by having them grab onto your feet. Kirby can also inhale the other players, which is kind of fun, and it definitely involves kind of arguing back and forth. But if you inhale another player and spit it out at an enemy, it takes off a pretty good amount of damage. And then finally, another thing you can do in multiplayer is the characters can kind of hold power-ups for each other. So let's say I'm Kirby, I don't want to be Fire Kirby anymore, I press the minus button to get rid of it, but maybe I'll want it later on down the level. You can have your friend or your family member grab onto that power-up and then carry it through the level. Maybe somebody needs it later. So there's a lot of really fun ways to interact with each other in multiplayer, and these different interactions definitely cause a commotion when you're playing with multiple people. Okay, so the game's visuals are very solid. I think it's definitely built on a very solid design here. It's very bright, colorful, soft. It's everything you would want out of a Kirby game. You'll be taken through meadows, industrial buildings, volcanoes with a lot of lava. There's frozen landscapes. You'll be at the beach and underwater. The visuals definitely have a lot of variety here. But it's very typical in a way. It's not as stylized as Kirby's Epic Yarn, and so I do think that game looks better than Return to Dreamland. And it's not quite as detailed as something like Donkey Kong Country Returns, which is another 2D platformer on the Wii. However, even though it's not up to par with those visuals and it's really not trying anything too unique, it's very clean. There's not a lot of blurry textures. In fact, I don't even really seem to recall any textures that looked crappy. and there's no characters or bits of the environment that are too blocky and don't look up to date. It's a very clean, colorful looking Kirby game, and I think it's everything you would want a Kirby title to look like on the Wii as far as a traditional Kirby game would look. One of the cool things about the audio here in Return to Dreamland is the fact that the game offers a sound test, or like a little jukebox, where you can go in and listen to the entire soundtrack. You can also listen to the sound effects. This is obviously something that's kind of traditional with HAL developed games. You know, Smash Brothers always offers up a sound test, and so if you want to listen to the soundtrack or the sound effects on your TV, you can go in and do that. So that's kind of cool. As far as the quality of the soundtrack goes, I think it's kind of directly relatable to the visuals in a way, in the sense that it's not really trying too hard to be different. It's definitely sticking to traditional Kirby, but at the same time it is in no way bad, and I would say it's definitely good. It's just probably, I think, not quite as good as Kirby's Epic Yarns soundtrack. That sounded a little bit more higher quality, and it was trying a few new things. Overall, it's a good soundtrack, and it's just not necessarily something that's going to wow you. Now, as far as replay value is concerned, I think Return to Dreamland actually has a pretty healthy amount of replay value. The game itself is kind of on the short side. It's about 6 to 8 hours to complete, obviously depending on how good you are or how fast you play the game. However, once you complete the main adventure mode, you can play it again in a little bit more of a challenging adventure. The enemies will cause more damage when they hit you, there might be more enemies, and the bosses are definitely kind of restructured to be more challenging. So if you found the adventure to be a little bit easier first playthrough, you can play it again in kind of a more challenging, difficult mode. And then there's another bit of replay value that comes in collecting these hidden energy spheres that are scattered throughout every single stage. There's anywhere from 3 to 5 of them in all the stages, and when you collect a certain amount of them, you will unlock special challenge missions, which are located in the Lore Star Cutter, which is a ship that was piloted by this new little alien creature. The story behind the game is that he's crashed in Dreamland and you need to help him get back to his planet. And so when you go inside of his ship, you can play these challenge missions. They all deal with different copy abilities. So there's a mission for the whip, the leaf, the stone, the high jump power, the sword. You get the idea. The overall idea behind the missions is that you're going to want to really quickly rush through these stages. They're all specially designed with the ability. You want to try to get through the stage in your quickest possible time. But it's not just about that, it's also about collecting the many different coins that are scattered throughout the stages. So the challenge missions, in my opinion, add in a lot of replay value, and if you're the type of person who likes to really challenge yourself for higher scores, you're definitely going to find yourself playing the challenge missions for many, many more hours after you've beaten the game. You're rewarded with a bronze, silver, gold, or platinum medal in all those, so obviously you're going to want to try for those platinum medals, and they are extremely hard to get. A lot of the challenge missions even have special little secrets about them. You'd have to find out what those secrets are in order to really get that platinum medal. And then there's also an arena mode, which is basically like a boss challenge where you would see how long you can last through many, many, many different bosses. They combine the mini bosses with the main bosses. You can play with up to 4 people, and in between battles they take you to a room where you can change your power up, or you can also grab some health. So it's a little bit like in Smash Brothers, the boss challenge mode in that. That definitely adds some replay value, and playing that with 4 people, as you can imagine, gets pretty wacky. Okay, so in conclusion, I gotta say, I actually ended up enjoying Kirby's Return to Dreamland more than I thought I was going to. Going into it, I expected it to be decent, and I was kind of thinking, you know, okay, it's just traditional Kirby and there's not many new ideas on display. And while that might be true, I think just the overall concept behind a traditional Kirby game has really stood the test of time. They've also added in some new ideas, like the ability to play with up to 4 people, the new super abilities, the challenge mode. I think there's enough newness here to keep you entertained, and I think this game is really what a lot of Kirby fans have been asking for a very long time. The BitBlock is rewarding Kirby's Return to Dreamland with a 9.0 out of 10. If for some reason I failed to cover something here in the review, feel free to ask any questions at this post at TheBitBlock.com, and I or somebody will eventually get back to you on that. Alright, see you guys later. Thanks for watching.